Konami has just unveiled their new side event, and it's among the most interesting side events that they have ever set up in my opinion. The concept is simple enough, but I'll link you guys to the Generation Duels in the description below if you want to read up more into it. Contrary to what a lot of people have mistakenly presumed based on the information provided, it's actually not 5 different formats, but a single format using 5 different ban lists simultaneously, each ban list representing a different era of Yu-Gi-Oh! You'll be able to choose one of the 5 eras, and then you build a deck from that particular ban list. Then, in the tournament, you can face off against people from all different eras, ranging from the original Duel Monsters to GX to 5Ds, Zexal, and Arc 5, of course. I reckon that with time, there will prove to be an era that is better than the rest, that makes little reason to choose any other era. But that's kind of besides the point, especially since this is a side event. It's probably not going to run on long enough for there to be a true meta to develop. What I will say, though, that disappoints me about this is the fact that Konami seemingly put very little effort into these ban lists for the different eras. There are a ton of sweeping bans of fusions, rituals, synchros, and XCs in all eras except for Arc 5. Duel Monsters era, for example, has a tiny pool of usable monsters, effectively banning most of the game's effect monsters. Now, complaints about implementation aside, the concept is actually engaging and one that I think will be enjoyable compared to the somewhat stale format that we have now. I think that a discussion of what decks might be good from this format from each era might prove to be rather interesting. Starting with the Duel Monsters era, Duel Monsters doesn't give us very many options, but in exchange we get tons of different power cards that are free to be used. This leaves us the option of multiple FTKs to choose from. Julia has also informed us that card effects are ruled under the era that they come from, making decks like Makura FTK viable under this in multiple different forms, whether it's using Exchange of the Spirit or Exodia. Magical Explosion is also another FTK deck that's viable. If you pick Duel Monsters as your era, I see no reason other than to build an FTK deck. Any other sort of conventional deck is just going to get thrashed by any other deck from basically any other era. So for FTK lovers, the Duel Monsters era is for you. Moving on to GX. GX is probably objectively the weakest era under this list, as it only gets access to fusions, and most of the good fusions are actually banned. All of the Shadal fusions, for example, are unavailable. As of this point in time, I see basically no reason at all to choose GX over any of the other eras. There are some neat gimmicks, though, I guess, that are unique to GX. Stratos, for example, is unlimited, so you can build a really good Omni-Hero deck, especially considering the fact that Super Polymerization is at 3, and, well, the deck probably has no problem dealing with things like Dark Destroyer that you'll probably run into. Despite these, though, I still hold that GX is the weakest era under the Generation Duels format, just because all of the other eras offer something that's just so much more powerful than what GX can offer you. Though it is interesting to note that you can actually play full-powered Spiritual Beasts in their GX. Moving on to 5Ds. The 5Ds era offers a wide variety of options, it seems, as Synchros are a versatile group of monsters. Add to this the fact that Hyper Librarian and Formula Synchron are easily abusable as an engine, and this may very well be one of the strongest eras up for contention. Now, what is probably the strongest option as a deck for using the 5Ds era? I am thinking that something like Synchro Infernity may be one of the better options. With the ability to make essentially auto-win fields, it's hard to argue with. They can also perform the Trishula loop as well. Even though Trishula is at 2 under this list, having Bryanek available should indicate that the loop would be possible, even just with one Trish. Plan Synchro and probably other random Synchro-centric decks could prove to be good options as well choosing the 5Ds era. They also have 3 Rescue Cat as well. Don't forget that. Do what you guys will with this information, but it could lead to some nasty stuff. As for the Zexal era, Zexal is probably one of the most powerful eras, as Xyz are inherently the most powerful extra deck mechanic. This era brings back cards like Exciton Knight, Lavalval Chain, Ptolemaeus, and of course the ruthless Shockmaster. Each one of these cards is a game changer on its own, which is why, in my opinion, I think the Zexal era decks will prove to be the strongest of all 5 eras. There are numerous options for good decks here, and some of which I'll outline. The first deck is Satellar Knights. They get back 3 reinforcement of the army, 3 upstart goblin, along with the Xyz monsters mentioned beforehand, giving them access to Shockmaster, who's a win condition on his own, as well as access to rank 5s via Ptolemaeus. They will be very powerful as a deck. Adding on to the rank 4 madness, we have Clownblade, which might even be a better option than Tellar Knights due to the fact that they can just run Damage Juggler to effectively negate any damage-based FTK that could come their way. The last rank 4 deck that I think could be a threat is Dino Rabbit. It has 3 rabbits available to them, though without the back row that was available to the deck in the past, I think that Tellar Knights and Clownblade probably are better picks because Tellar Knights have better back row because they have access to their own counter trap stopping everything via Stellar Nova Alpha, and Clownblade just has faster plays and more recovery than Dino Rabbit does. Before I move on to talk about the Arc 5 era decks, I wanted to note that decks from the current format, like Monarchs and Cosmos, are probably going to want to take their deck and use it under the Zexal era as their best bet, because they get to use 3 Upstart Goblin, 3 Reasoning, and 3 Emergency Teleports. This is at the cost of losing your Synchros, Fusions, and Pendulums, which is basically a non-factor for Monarchs and a minor inconvenience for Cosmos. Now moving on to the Arc 5 decks. From what I can tell, essentially identical to our current format, this list doesn't really have anything new to it, but it does have advantages that it offers via the fact that you get versatile access to basically everything in the game. You can use all the different mechanics, but you lose out on the past power cards. If you're playing a deck probably like Burning Abyss, then I suppose you have to go with Arc 5, but I feel that Burning Abyss is a poor choice for this format no matter what era you choose. Personally, I would choose Zexal and play probably either Tellar Knights or Monarchs. The deck that I feel is probably the strongest though in this whole format is probably Zexal era Domain Monarchs. It's able to shut down all the extra deck reliance strategies from every single era and can just main deck some hand traps for any other FTKs that you would run into. Additionally, these hand traps would probably cover loop decks that depend on things like Wind Up Carrier or Trishula as well. It has better options than Cosmo overall, and that's why I think Monarchs are the better deck, just because Domain outright will win you matchups just by the fact of it being on the field. There are just some decks that just can't deal with it. A lot of the synchrocentric decks, for example. So overall, I think this format is a very interesting step for Konami that I hope will be expanded upon later and balanced a little bit better. But this is a good step in the right direction. The ban lists used for each era honestly are pretty bad considering the fact that cards like Rituals can't even be used in any era outside of Arc 5, which makes no sense, especially considering the anime, where Rituals were a decent part of the original Duel Monsters. Additionally, there are tons of odd hits everywhere, and overall I think it's a tad clunky. The lists are kind of all a little bit messy, and it could have been done better. But that's enough for complaining and nitpicking at the details of this format. I think we should all just be glad that something like this exists at all. And maybe Konami is showing us that they're starting to listen to at least some of the ideas that we put forward. I think a format like this is definitely something that's interesting, and I'm excited about it. I don't know what you guys think. Tell me what you guys think in the comments section below. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you.